I'm actually feeling a bit raw just asking about this because, yeah, I guess I have noticed, I don't have a problem really kind of letting out a good cry in the privacy of my own home, or, uh, uh, kind of like throwing a tantrum or whatever. But I am noticing, there are times when it's appropriate to be, open and vulnerable, and or to let some emotion out, when
Yeah.
I'm around people. But it's not spiritual, and to some extent I think it's not masculine. I think there's an issue there as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I just wanted to kind of I was
Just
noticing that I've been noticing that in myself. And a
yeah.
friend was talking about, there is power in vulnerability, and I feel like, yeah, like, and when she said that, I was like, I do see it actually as a sign of weakness, to be vulnerable, to be open emotionally like that.
Yeah. I think it depends on the way in which you're seeing others as to whether you see it as vulnerable. Because when so what we do in human interactions or in business interactions, I don't know about all interactions, but in with more acquaintances, is we both have a deck of cards, and that deck of cards is your internal world. This is what we think as humans. That this
Hmm.
deck of cards is your internal world, and and you play those cards in order to manipulate the other and to get what you want. I know that sounds really harsh about humans, but we there's nothing wrong with manipulating. We're all doing it. Manipulating is maybe too
Hmm.
hard a word, but influencing the other.
Yeah.
So we all have this cards in which we can use to influence the other, and most of our interactions are about influencing the other into getting what you
Hmm.
want. Because we're traders, and we make this sound so awful as if it's a really bad thing, but this is how we interact. It's just the way we are. When Khaleesi, my dog, I always bring it back to her, but when she wants something, she makes it very obvious about what she wants. She sometimes even just stares at the fridge.
Hmm.
She just makes it obvious in our interactions, and she can do it in all types of ways. If she realizes staring at the fridge isn't going to work, then she'll come up and she'll be cute. And she'll rub her body against mine, and she'll look at me with her head down, like her eyes all up, as if she's flirting. So this
Hmm.
is what we're like. So when you go into a business interaction, your emotions and your feelings are a transaction. That's the way we see it. It's a way of, not a transaction, it's a way of communicating and a way of achieving your goals. But it's not so healthy um, to be like that. It's stressful. It's like you're always trading. You're even trading your sense of self with the other.
Hmm.
And so the goal, or what I was taught, and the way that I've found works, is being yourself. And normally that works in trading situations as well. And doing as your body feels like doing. So underneath all the surface layers, there's this natural flow that you have, and it feels right when you do it. And this is life, or the I am speaking. This is where you begin to disappear and you just act out God's will, or what life wants, or your true desire, or spirit's will,
Hmm.
whichever you call it. And it's still got involved in it, because that's the way we are, but it's a lot more real and a lot more vulnerable and a lot more raw.
Hmm. Yeah, that's very interesting. And I think that's, yeah, that's kind of the issue. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I guess it requires me to kind of the mind to relinquish power. I guess I'm just, yeah, all of my human interactions are very much, how do you say, they're dictated by the mind, by
Yeah.
thought,
And what you've been
logically figuring out
taught.
what the next.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And what you've taught to be. And, maybe in some circumstances, that's really successful in trading and in business and in interaction and in friendships. But it doesn't feel that great.
Hmm.
Eventually stresses out the body. The best way you can be is be as authentically yourself. And and let it out. Not letting it out as in trying to manipulate the other to so you're telling them a sad story in order to get pity. It's not like that. That's still on the surface level of you. It's like if you feel sad about something that's just happened, you just cry, or you just tell people that you feel sad.
Hmm.
It's better that you can put yourself around more genuine people, though, because I can imagine in Los Angeles and in all the world over, there are, what's the right word to say?
Fake people. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's
fake
that's what
people.
we
That's
call
a
them.
nice way to put it. Yeah, fake people. I was going to say there is people that will do anything to get what they want,
Hmm.
including using your emotional vulnerability to manipulate you. I
Yes,
used to
and
not
yeah.
believe that. I used to think that every human being has the ability to empathize, and um, and then a few years back, I I realized I had a first-hand experience with someone that I knew really well, and I realized they didn't have the ability to empathize. Like I really saw that they couldn't empathize, which gave me empathy to them. But it meant that if someone can't empathize, they will do anything to get what they want, even using your darkest, saddest, most vulnerable moments to manipulate you to get what you want, to get what they want. And so it's like better if you can surround yourself with more vulnerable, empathetic,
Hmm.
um, uh, open people. But so having
Yeah.
said that, if you go into a directors meeting, or you go into work with people that are very fake, your best way still is to follow your flow. And if that means being really vulnerable and them taking advantage of you, that's what God's will is, and that's what you've got to do.
Okay. Yeah, I was afraid you were going to say that. Yeah, I think that was kind of it. But yeah. All right. I,
And it's part of life. Like I'm sure I get taken advantage of. I'm really lax with a lot of things. Like I'm really trusting. I really even though I've had my trust broken, I really trust people. Um, Not all the time, but in a lot of circumstances. And if
huh.
they break, and sometimes I think to myself, or sometimes about people, that I would rather trust people and to have them take advantage of me than to research or try and spy or just not believe in people, I suppose, or something like that. So if you get taken
Hmm.
advantage of, that's what happens. That you've got to follow that flow of love.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah, I feel like that, I don't know, that just kind of feels like the sticking point right there, just the fear of being taken advantage of, because there has been so many times, like, the few times that I have tried to be vulnerable, it ends up being with, kind of manipulative people.
Yes.
And so that's kind of been a bit of a negative reinforcement. But yeah, maybe
Yeah.
it is a matter of just kind of accepting that, you know what, sometimes, uh, yeah, sometimes you're just gonna run into people who will take advantage of that. But
And you've got
I don't know.
to put your priorities straight of what's most important to you.
Hmm.
Like I, recently, this year I renovated my house, and every so often I'd run into people that would tell me about how builders took advantage of them and did this to them, and I shouldn't give my builders this much leeway, and I should do this and should do that. And every time they did it, it felt so heavy, like all the
Hmm.
suggestions and all the precautions you should put in, and this and that. And when there was this feeling just to trust them, it just felt really loving and beautiful. Like to not listen to all the negativity of what other people said. And I'm not sure, who knows if some of the builders I had working for me took time off or didn't do things properly, I don't think I could tell. Like, I'm not a building
Hmm.
expert. And if I put all this stress into trying to make sure they weren't lying or cheating with me, it would have like really stressed me out. Like, some people told me really stressful stories about having builders in and all these things that happen. And really, when I heard people's stories, I thought my priority isn't to be really tight with money to fight over every hour that they work. And if that does happen, I would rather have it flowing and feeling both ways that we're appreciated than really like checking up on them and dropping it in unexpected times and like making them dock every moment, making them give every receipt, um, like being really super stressful about it. Like, what's your priority? And when I think about these things, and when I think about running a business and accountants and all the things I have to do, I think that my priority is to follow the flow of love. And sometimes the flow of love maybe does get a bit manipulated by people that aren't following their love or following their flow. But in the long run, I think it always works out as long as you really know that that's what you want. And who knows, maybe my builders did, but maybe they didn't. Maybe they were really generous with their time. I had to be away for a lot of the renovation because my dad wasn't in the UK, so I really couldn't keep up with it. I was really having to be a trust for this particular renovation. So it's like on you when you go into work, like, what is your priority? Like, following that flow and the love, or trying to keep a check of who's being manipulative or who's not. You can put information in your head, so if you've heard a nasty story about someone and it turns out that it sounds like it's quite trustworthy, you can put that information in your head so your body is updated with the latest conditioning. But what is your priority? And my priority is always love.
Yeah.
And then if it turns
And that's
out and
that's
it turns out that they've manipulated you, then you'll have a bit of a tantrum and a bit of a cry, and then you'll be over it. But if you're constantly checking and trying to be fake or trying to live up to their standards, it's a lot worse reality. I'm not talking about being taken advantage of you or of. Like, I'm not talking about too much passivity, which is can be a problem of mine, but too much passivity that means you're constantly being taken advantage of, that you're constantly reenacting the victim. I'm talking about something else. If you think you've got a problem where you're constantly recreating being a victim, then we need to have a different conversation.
well, that actually, come to think of it, that that's definitely a thing as well. Um, I don't know. I feel like because there is definitely, at least, well, in interpersonal relationships, it's very difficult for me to show vulnerability. Just as I think it's just a defensive mechanism that I've developed uh, for quite some time. But I think it
And do you
has a
feel
lot to do with
like,
the fact that,
yeah, Karen?
but I think that at the same time, though, if I'm mindful of my thoughts and sort of the memories that I keep going back to, it is, these times in the past where I was the victim, where
Yeah,
I was uh, being hurt or, like physically or emotionally or
yeah.
getting taken advantage of and cheated and, all that and that kind of thing.
Yeah, you
So,
see, you need to
yeah.
work on that a bit, because otherwise you're going to keep recreating that. You'll keep calling
Mm,
towards you in an abusive situation. So you need
yeah.
to work on that a little. But mind you, having said that, we're not always really sure what we are. Like, sometimes we think we're being the victim when we've actually been the abuser. Like, it's a fine line. We don't really know. So, but basically, with this dynamic, you need to go into that feeling. So, whereabouts is it when you tell me that story? Where is it that you feel it in the body? That you've been taken advantage of and you have these memories of people taking advantage of you?
It's the throat and the gut.
Yeah. And what feeling is it in your throat and in your gut? Fear or anxiety or worry or lack,
Uh,
disempowerment?
Rage.
Rage, where does
There's
the
a lot
rage,
of anger.
where does the rage come from? Which part?
Yeah, it just kind of it shoots up from. I mean, I guess even deeper than the gut. It kind of shoots up from the like the root, you
Yeah.
know,
And what does the
and
rage
just
want to say?
it's just a scream. uh,
And what
right now, it's just
and
a.
is it towards women or to men or what particular situations?
Well, right now it is so like there was like this. I mean, I like it's there's women and men I think, but like right now there's a sort of there was this one time when I was young, this kid who was kind of threatening to beat me up, like he was on like on top of me, like just with his fist in my face. But then there's also, I mean, I also see a lot of rage about I don't know, women who've taken advantage of me as well, like just kind of been very manipulative, that kind of thing,
Yeah.
and emotionally abusive.
Yep.
But
And
yeah,
are
there.
you passive or are you active? Like, so when you go out with women, do you seek them? Do you ask them out, or do they come to you?
I'm naturally inclined to being passive, but like it takes some effort, I think, for me to be active. But that's I think that's just kind of the role that I have to play. So I've just kind of um, make a habit of just asking women out as well. But if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, but typically, I think I'm more naturally inclined to be passive.
Hello?
Hello? Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I'm more naturally inclined to be passive. Yeah, they were well off.
And are you handsome? Sorry to
Yeah,
be so blunt
I
as well.
I mean, I guess yeah, I am now. Um, it's kind of an ugly duckling thing, but yeah, I guess you could say that I have. Um, yeah,
So
yeah.
basically, what happens then is that you have a lot of things that other people want.
Hmm.
So if you have a lot of things that other people want, then they're going to play all types of games to try and get that from you. Do you know, being a famous actor, I think, would be a very hellish life. Like a famous, good-looking actor with lots of money, this would be a really hellish life because what happens to you is every interaction you have, you always have the power, and people always want things from you. So you always have this energy of trying to protect yourself, that people are trying to get something from you. It also happens if you had really needy parents or parents that were over involved in their child's life.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
it's something that's it's difficult to handle because your interactions with people, especially now if you're handsome, your interactions with people is that they're going to want things from you, and you're not going to be acting out what you want. You're going to be being, unless you've got a strong sense of what you want, you're going to be being manipulated and pushed around with other people, which is what will begin to create the rage towards
Hmm.
people. This is most probably why actors often have these rage fits. You know how you always see famous actors having these rage fits on set? It's because they can't take having that energy projected at them all the time. It's very difficult to have people always trying to get things from you all the time. It produces rage. So this is where you've got to become ultra clear about what your flow is saying. Your flow will naturally navigate you into balanced situations where people aren't overly wanting things from you. that it tends to be that rage comes from not having put up your boundaries and not having expressed what you've wanted, and other people taking things from you or trying to take things from you. It's not rage. Anger is the natural way of putting up your boundaries, but rage tends to be a build up of that happening, that people have taken too much from you. And it's ironic that it happens. It often happens to people that have been born with lots of things, so have been given lots of things that that other people haven't had, because then you go into situations where other people are trying to get them from you, or other people are jealous of you. Does that resonate at all, or am I pushing too much on you?
No, this is resonating very much so. Yeah, a lot.
I mean,
I mean,
obviously, I
yeah,
can
just
see
just
that you're not dark skinned, but you're not white skinned. So you've obviously had conflict there. So that would have been that would have been like a. It's not like you've got the white looks, where that would have been like another thing that people, well, not that people don't want the more tanned look, but it's all to do with society standards. Like
hmm
the biggest thing in our society is the white male, handsome, rich male.
yeah, yeah. No, it's yeah. God, there's so much resonating right now, and
Rage is a build up of the boundaries thing.
hmm yeah. And it's something, yeah, just anger in general is something that I've been looking at in terms of, huh,
And then the anger
yeah.
comes, so as a male as well, then anger comes from not being able to identify your feelings. So it just is allowed out in anger. That's the only feeling that's acceptable in the male world is anger, rage, fighting. But it's that you've
hmm
not identified your feelings, your boundaries, what you want, what you don't want, expressing sadness to people. If you get underneath the fakeness, the personal level, the seeking level, the identified level, if you get underneath that, you'll find there is a natural flow that's putting up the right boundaries, and moving away from people that are wanting or expecting too much from you or trying to get things from you, and you'll find your natural balance. You won't always get things right. Life is messy, but it's there is this natural flow underneath, where it navigates, where it
So,
knows when someone's taking advantage of you, that someone's trying to get things from you, that somebody wants something that's not um, so pure.
hmm. Yeah, and I feel like in my interactions, like I like just thinking of a couple of interactions in the past where, like, yes, I was definitely being taken advantage of, and there was something in the gut. There was just a feeling like, yeah, this is, there, but I just didn't trust it,
Yeah.
you know. So yeah, no, I definitely
And remember,
feel you there.
distrust of others is also distrust of self. So it's
Hmm.
when you distrust others, it's also a reflection that you're not trusting yourself.
Hmm.
This goes both ways. It's not just the other being untrustworthy. It's also when you don't trust yourself to weed out those that are being untrustworthy. And then also,
Oh.
if you've got the ugly duckling thing that turned out handsome, you didn't go through a gradual process um, of dealing with being attractive, because being attractive is just like glued on money. It's like you're walking around with glued on money. I'm sorry to put it, but if we think of it like that, like, so you've not learned how to deal with it progressively, and your parents won't have taught you how to deal with it in that way, like in a way where you manage it. And no one ever talks about that, because if you say that, then it creates jealousy in other people, it creates rage or anger in other people, like, how dare they speak about that there. It's like somebody complaining, or not complaining, but like working out how to deal with becoming a multimillionaire overnight.
Yeah, no, that's exactly because I feel like I've actually tried to talk to people about this, and it just kind of pisses them off. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it has been an issue. Like, yeah, what do I don't know. I just remember like suddenly, I mean, this happened in I guess high school. Like, I guess I just started working out, and suddenly my I got a jawline, and suddenly I started getting attention from very attractive girls, and I didn't know what to do with it. Um, I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of cathartic just saying it,
Yeah.
but yeah, glued on money. Yeah,
It is like you have to learn, it's a negotiating thing. Like, so you have to learn how
yeah,
to negotiate with people in that because it gets all confused, especially if you've had, it's, you didn't have that self image and then suddenly people want things from you. You don't know how to put up that boundary and say no. And so then
yeah,
you get your boundaries crossed, and you give away too much of yourself, and then the internal rage begins. And then being a guy as well, you can't so easily express all the things that you're feeling or be able to talk about it with people. So it just becomes internalized, and it will become this explosion of anger. So you'll be with people, and people will have taken things from you, you'll be fine, fine, and then poof, the rage or the anger or the dislike for the other will start.
hmm,
The ultimate freedom
yeah,
is seeing that your freedom is who you are, is this moment, and that in this moment there is this God's will that's speaking the body, and that's where you've got to get to. So it's recognizing the I am, like who you are, and then letting God's will speak. So letting, and that God's will you could also say is your will, but your deep will, not your identified will. Like below all that, there is this flow that knows what to do. It doesn't mean that life is always like raining money or something. It doesn't manifest like that, but it then isn't so much acting out the victim story, the perpetrator story. It's more free to express itself moment to moment. It's not attracting its opposites so much.
oh man, yeah, this is it's always great talking to you,
Yeah.
but this is yeah, there's just so much,
Yeah,
and I feel
and
like
I really am happy that, like, I was a little shy to say that when I said all that to you because I've never actually seen you. I see your picture, but you can't tell from the picture. But
uh,
like, it's a little shy saying that, not so much because of me, but because I didn't want to embarrass you, or I didn't want people to turn on you when I said that, because that does make people turn.
mhm,
I don't know why, but I have lots of rich friends. I'm not particularly rich, but I've had lots of very wealthy friends, and it's not always easy for people to deal with being wealthy because you're walking around with what other people really want. So they get a lot of jealousy projected at them, a lot of people asking them for a lot of things, like people they don't even know, writing to them begging for money or telling them terrible, all types of things. And then if they ever mention it, people like just get really angry with them and um, feel like it's not acceptable to talk about it. But it's a big thing for you because you are walking around like that, like, especially if you grew up in a wealthy society as well. You're walking around with a lot of things that people envy or want. So they're either pushing you away out of jealousy or wanting it and trying to manipulate you to do things. Um, and when you begin to identify with low self-esteem or lack or this person, then you forget what God's will is, and God's will is or the big will or your will deep down, um, has this natural way of dealing with things. But when you're identified with lack, say, then you'll give too much away. When you're identified with low self-esteem, then you'll give too much to people and then you'll dislike them, or you'll keep everything to yourself and hide away. Depends, but yeah.
that's that last one, hiding away, keeping things to myself, not yeah, I think that's kind of been my natural inclination, just hiding away, not just, looks wise, but talent wise as well.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. Yeah, I feel like maybe there's a sort of a guilt complex about, just
Yeah.
what I have,
Yeah,
you
and
know.
But of course that's gonna form as well, because you've also got people around you projecting a jealousy onto you, so it's going to push you into guilt. But underneath that, there's a natural flow with it. There's a natural surrender to it. And there can be this sympathy and this sadness that comes up that everyone can't be even. That's a really empathetic, beautiful perspective. But it's not identifying it. It's letting that feeling pass through your body, and then acting from your flow and not acting from the injustice. It's like letting everything pass through, so you just become like a beautiful river flowing through, rather than like identifying with particular thoughts or ideas or feelings. But yeah, that's something for you to look at and to identify in your body, and just be as open with yourself as possible about these things. And I know everyone in society says that you can't talk about it or think about it, but really look at these things, because they'll be huge in your life. They'll be huge in your
Yeah.
conditioning.
Looking at, sorry, if we can just pinpoint what exactly I need to look at.
Particularly looking at the source of this rage and boundaries,
Yeah.
like how you've dealt with that particular story.
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure the rage
And
will be something to do with boundaries. It normally
yeah,
always is. It can be. It forms. When somebody crosses your boundary. So when somebody abuses you as a child, say, or crosses a boundary, it's like it builds and builds and builds. This rage is like a big defense towards other humans that have infringed on you.
part of my, how do you say, my identity in my life. Yeah, just people constantly taking advantage, and me just kind of taking it, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah, maybe, and yeah, like these past couple days, like it's been, yeah, I feel like I've just been on fire, just a
Yeah.
lot of rage,
Yeah. That's
just
great.
coming
That's really
up.
great.
Yeah,
It's that, and
yeah.
it is, and it's. So you have to see the story. So see that rage story, and see. What's wrong, Mum? Oh, sorry. My mum's there. She's just. Are you all right, Mum? Sorry. I don't know what we're talking
No
about
worries.
then, but I just had my mum sort of like falling through the corridor, but she's all right. I think she's chasing the dog. I think.
Okay.
So just seeing that. No, I lost it. I forgot what I was saying.
We were talking about, yeah, I was just talking about how, yeah, like I've been, a lot of rage has kind of been
Yeah.
coursing through me for the past, yeah, few
Yeah.
days.
And so you've got to see it, but then at the same time recognizing the I am that isn't identified to anything that's moving in time. So it's like
Yeah, I
letting
think
it
that's
up.
naturally been coming about,
Yeah. Yeah.
like a stillness that's in it and around it.
Yeah.
Is that kind of,
Yeah.
yeah. Hmm.
Nice. But I better go now, because I think my mum also would like some attention, I think, as well. So I said I would eat
Okay,
with her at
fantastic.
8
Yeah,
o'clock.
yeah. No, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
this has been so helpful. Yeah, thank you so much.
Nice. Thank you very much, Basile. Lots of love.
All right,
Bye.
take care. Bye.
So thanks, guys. I shall see you on Sunday at 6 p.m. French time. Thanks a lot. Bye.